All right, so I saw the Wolverine on Friday, the night that it came out. Well, it came out on Thursday, but I saw it on Friday. And just before I talk about that, let me talk about a little bit about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yeah, it's not a very good movie. I don't really care for it all that much. The CGI is horrible. The continuity is just completely off. There's a lot of stuff in that that just does not add up with the other films. And also, it really felt a little unnecessary. I felt like we knew enough about his origin from X2, which I still feel, I think that's probably the best X-Men movie. I haven't seen X-Men First Class, but quite frankly, I just didn't care, so I never bothered to watch it. But nothing about that movie really interested me, and I actually don't mind X3. I know a lot of people don't like X-Men 3, but I actually don't mind it that much. So going into the Wolverine, I had some hopes for the film, simply because I really like the character. Hugh Jackman is really good. He's great as Wolverine. He is this character. He's made this character. He fucking owns this character, and he is really awesome in the Wolverine. I mean, he's great. I mean, he fucking owns Wolverine. He is this character. I can't really see. It's like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. Like I can't see anybody else playing that role. So when I finally saw the movie, having seen the movie now, the Wolverine, uh, it's gotten a lot of great reviews. So how do I feel about the film? Honestly, I didn't really care for it that much. In fact, I feel this is a very overrated film. It's gotten a lot of great reviews. A lot of people are really enjoying this film, but I personally didn't care for it that much. Um, Hugh Jackman is great. He is great. I liked what they did with his character in this film. I liked the character development, what they gave him. It was just everything else that to me was just lacking. Um, First and foremost, getting into the plot, it starts off with a flashback. It starts off on the day that the nuclear bombs were dropped on Nagasaki during World War II. Wolverine is being held prisoner. He's in this hole. He's in this Japanese camp, and they know the Japanese. They see the plane coming, and they know that they're going to drop something, and they're going to die, and they're about to commit suicide. One of them, however, is unable to because Wolverine manages to escape from this giant hole that he's in the ground, and he grabs the guy and he throws him into the hole, and he sort of shields the guy. He puts like this steel door like over him, and he sort of like the blast, the heat comes in through the hole, and this is a cool scene too because when it's over, it cuts back to Hugh Jackman, and he's all fucking burnt up. He's fucking deep fried, extra crispy. And I believe that was a practical effect. Like it didn't like usually when you see like a CGI scarring and stuff like that, you can notice the difference because I don't think we've perfected that yet. I think it was done practically, and it was cool. Like I like that. I like seeing them all fucking burned up and shit. And of course, he regenerates. Then he wakes up and he's next to Jean Grey. And of course, if you saw X3, you know that he had to kill her at the end of that movie, and he feels guilty about it. He's lying in bed with Jean Grey, and it's Famke Jensen reprising the role. And he says, I promise Jean, I will never hurt another human being again, as long as I can be with you. And she's like, it's too late, or something like that. And I like this little scene, this little dream he has, because it cuts down, and you see that he's got his hand, like the adamantium claws, inside of her stomach, and of course he freaks out. And he wakes up, and we see he's actually been living as pretty much, I guess you could say, a bum. He's living out in the woods. He's sleeping like in this little crevice of a mountain. He's got long hair. He's got a beard. He's basically a fucking hobo now. What is it with turning these superheroes into fucking hobos? Like, first it was Superman and Man of Steel, and now, Wolverine is a fucking hobo now, too. At least Superman had a fucking job. Odd jobs, but, Wolverine's not doing anything. He's just living out in the woods. And here's another thing, too. Where the fuck does Wolverine get money from? Because you assume he's been out here for years now, since the events of X3. Does he have any money? Like, where does he get money from? I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. Um, but eventually he gets he runs into this Japanese girl who was hired by the guy from the beginning of the film. And she says, you know, he wants to say goodbye to you because he saved his life and he feels he owes you his life, so he wants to say goodbye. You know, so he wants to do it in person. So they go to Japan, and you actually get some bits of humor here that I liked. I like this moment where he can't go see the guy who's dying. The guy's name is Yoshida. Um, and before that he can go see him, there's like, you can't go in there like this. You're gonna have to go let these, you know, you're gonna have to go take a bath and clean yourself up. Not, they don't exactly say that, but they're like, get in the tub. The girl who gets them, she's the girl in the trailer. She's got like the pink hair, the dark pinkish hair. Um, and Hugh Jackman's like, I'm not getting in there. I'm not doing that. And she's like, just get in the tub. And you see him in the tub, and you see these two old Japanese women like scrubbing him with like these long brushes. They kind of look like, you know, like those things that used to like sweep floors. They kind of look like that, but like smaller, and they're scrubbing him with it. And he's like, all right, hey. And they start cutting his hair with scissors. He's like, all right, you know what? I can do that. And he comes out, and then he looks like how he looks, you know, normally with the hair and the beard. And the girl with the pink hair, I forgot her name. I really don't care. I didn't give a shit about her character either way. I mean, acting-wise, I thought she did fine. I just didn't care about her character. And she says to him, "You look good." And Hugh Jackman goes, "Yeah, well, I feel violated. I feel violated." I thought that was pretty funny. And he goes in to see Yoshida. And he basically says, "I didn't just bring you here to say goodbye. I brought you here to give you a gift." I said, "I want to end your eternity, because living like this must not be great." And of course, we know that, you know, he's suffering. He doesn't want to live like this anymore because of what he did to Jean Grey. He feels guilty that he had to kill her. So the guy says, "I found a way to transfer your powers into me." So basically, the guy wants to take his powers and put it in himself so that Wolverine can, you know, live and grow old and die. Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. Wolverine, I'll just call him Wolverine. This says no. It's like, you don't want what I have. I'm not giving you my powers, because he doesn't want to condemn somebody else to this, because it may seem like, I guess, a gift, but he considers it now a burden. So he says, no, you know, I came here to say goodbye. Well, goodbye. I'm not giving you my powers. And of course, later that night, the guy Yoshida dies. I go like this because I'll get to that. He dies, and he runs into this woman who is Yoshida's granddaughter, named Mariko. And you find out later on, during the funeral, Yoshida's funeral, that she's actually being targeted by the Yakuza. And at the funeral, the Yakuza guys show up, and then we get the first action scene of the movie. And then the problem with this movie is really the fight sequences. The movie is held back by its PG-13 rating. Every time that there's a fight, the camera fucking moves around all over the place because they want to cover up the fact that this is PG-13 and they can't show violence. And that's the thing, though. When you've got a character like Wolverine with the fucking adamantium claws, it's not that exciting seeing him just, you know, punch someone and you get kind of a cutaway. People are saying, oh, this was violent for a PG-13 movie. First of all, that's a bunch of bullshit. Just because you see a little bit more blood, maybe on his claws, or when he gets a cut or he gets shot, you see a little bit of aftermath. That's nothing. That's nothing. Don't get more violent for a PG-13 movie? What the fuck is that? That's nothing. So the fight sequences I thought were really lame. But the gist of the plot is, for a big chunk of the movie, he's protecting Yoshida's granddaughter, Mariko. And after this attack on the funeral, now during that scene in the funeral, we're introduced to this other character, this Asian guy. I've seen that guy before. I believe he was one of the bad guys, and I can't believe I fucking remember this. He was one of the bad guys in Elektra, the Asian guy with the long hair. I think that's him. I didn't look him up, but I think that's him, because he looks fucking familiar, and I remember him from that movie. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but I think that was him. You see him in the trailer, and he's there. He says he's going to protect Mariko, Yoshida's granddaughter, and he's kind of helping out Wolverine. He's taking out Yakuza guys, and eventually Mariko and Wolverine, they sort of end up together, and they get on a bullet train. And Wolverine starts to realize, you know what, because he got shot during the funeral, he looks at his stomach and he realizes he's bleeding. He's not healing. And it's in the trailers, of course. I'm not really giving too much away. And the reason he's not healing is because earlier that night he had another dream about Jean Grey, but it was interrupted by this blonde chick who you see earlier. She's Yoshida's nurse or doctor who's taking care of him, but she's a mutant. She's basically like a snake or something. She can produce poisonous material from her tongue or from her breath. You know, she's like a snake basically. And she like kisses Logan, and she puts something in him. But I'll get to what it is later. And it basically suppresses his powers. Which leads me to another problem. The whole concept of taking Wolverine's powers away is completely pointless. They do absolutely nothing with that. Nothing. It's a plot point, but that's it. They do nothing with it. It might as well just be business as usual, because even though he gets fucked up, he gets shot, there are moments where, like, he pulls out the adamantium claws, and you're thinking, when he pulls them back down, he heals, right? So now that his powers are suppressed, shouldn't he be, like, bleeding from his hands? If fucking knives that big came out of somebody's hands for real, and they didn't have regenerative powers, wouldn't they be bleeding constantly? That never happens. Of course not, because this is PG-13, and they gotta cover that. You know, can't be too bloody. So anyway, and also that fucking snake bitch, that blonde snake bitch, she was fucking horrible. She is the villain for most of this movie, and the villains are pretty lame. You've got basically generic Yakuza guys. You've got this guy who is Yoshida's son, who is the father of Mariko, who you find out is a bad guy, and he actually wants to kill. He's the one who hired the Yakuza to kill Mariko because Yoshida left all of his money and his corporation to her and not to his son. So if he kills her before the will is read, he'll get everything. That's the gist of the plot. It's pretty generic. Not like it really matters, you know. I just want an entertaining film. But anyway, on the bullet train, he notices he's not healing, and this leads to the scene in the trailer on the bullet train. And you know, I know some people said that they didn't like the way that looked. They thought the CGI was spotty. Honestly, I didn't mind it. I thought the CGI in this movie was a lot better than in X-Men Origins Wolverine. By far, the CGI looked a lot better. So the CGI in that bullet train sequence, I was actually fine with. I thought it looked fine. I've seen much worse. I usually compare the CGI in a film to, like, the Sci-Fi Channel, which is kind of an unfair comparison because the Sci-Fi Channel bullshit is just beyond horrendous. But the bullet train sequence I thought looked fine. The problem is it didn't really do anything for me. The bullet train sequence is really not much of anything. There's a bunch of Yakuza guys who are on top of the bullet train, and they're using knives to hold on to it. And Wolverine gets into a fight with some Yakuza guys on the inside. The door of the bullet train ends up getting destroyed, and a bunch of them shoot out. And of course, Wolverine, he holds on to it with his claws. He climbs up to the top because they're about to pass by this, like, not a pillar, but like a metal structure, and he's gonna hit it. He lets go and he flips himself over and he gets on top of the train, and it's really not much of anything. You know, he's clambering onto the top of the train with the claws, and the Yakuza guys have knives and they're sticking onto the train. And there is some decent moment here where Wolverine jumps over this sign. It's like a road sign, you know, ones that go like this, and then it hangs like that, and there's like a pole. He jumps over, but this Yakuza guy jumps too late, so he hits it